recording. Welcome to episode 6 of Faint Praise. I'm Toni.
I'm Eric.
And this is a podcast where we compare movies with similar themes by scoring them in a few different categories in order to decide which one did it better. And this week, I chose a couple movies that do this weird, like a mashup of...
not revisionism.
Of like 19th century historical stuff and monster.
Fantasy,
Yeah, monster mythos. And I was kind of all proud of myself at first for coming up with this theme. And then I realized that both movies are based on books by the same author. So apparently It's a purposeful theme. Yes, it's kind of similar to the Legion and Priest thing where I noticed, hey, why are these things so similar? And it turns out the same person made them.
So these movies were both off books?
Yes.
I didn't know
so
that.
The movies...
I mean, obviously Pride and Prejudice, but you're talking about a book about Pride and Prejudice and zombies?
They are both, yes.
Okay.
So the two movies in question are Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And both of these were books written by the same dude who, I guess, just, figured he could make money doing this or had an interest or whatever.
Managed to sell 2 books to screenplay adaptations within a year, it seems like.
They weren't the same year.
But I mean, probably within a year he sold them.
Right, probably. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was 2012, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was 2016.
Oh, so they're quite a few years apart.
They were a few years apart, yeah.
I don't remember that being that old. Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think that Abraham Lincoln was that popular of a movie, so maybe that's why it took a little while before they were like, oh, let's try this again. And
I don't remember anything.
It really didn't work with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. That one was a complete flop. I think Abraham Lincoln actually ended up making money. Not a lot, not enough to do any more of them.
Interesting.
Yep. So that's our matchup for the week. We'll go ahead and get into the first one that we watched, which was Abraham Lincoln.
Good old Abe.
Yeah, we went by Rotten Tomatoes scores, trying to always the eternal quest to watch the worst movie first to avoid being pissed off.
And be too
as much
devastated.
As possible. Yeah. So Abraham Lincoln was 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Pride and Prejudice was 43%.
Okay.
So did get significantly higher, but both of them are still in that middling range.
Right.
So with Abraham Lincoln, the gist of the story is it starts out with Abe as a young boy. His family works for this bigwig named Adam. I don't even think Adam ends up getting a last name. He's just Adam. And his family works for this guy. They're kind of paying off a debt. So they're in some sort of like indentured servitude type of thing.
Docks.
Yeah.
Hammering on things.
Yeah, but then the dad gets fired because Abe ends up trying to defend this black boy that is getting whipped by one of Adam's henchmen.
But he's not actually a slave because they're one of the free states.
Yeah, so the black kid was never a slave. He was born free, but for some reason this guy, this bad guy's name is Jack Bartz. I can't read my handwriting, but
Bartz.
He's a character for the rest of the movie. It's the only reason I'm even worrying about his name. But he's whipping this kid. And Abe tries to stop him. Then the dad ends up beating up the guy with the whip, and then he gets fired. And because of this whole incident, it turns out the guy with the whip was a vampire.
Oh, shit.
And he comes in the house that night into Abe's family's house and bites the mom, and she ends up dying.
Well, they have apparently they have poison bites too.
Yeah,
it's a weird part of the movie.
A bit inconsistent in what happens when a vampire bites people.
Yeah.
They can poison them and then kill them kind of slowly, or they can turn them
vampires.
or they can just drink their blood and kill them immediately.
Right.
So
they have a lot of options.
Yeah,
being a vampire.
It's really just based on whatever the movie needed at the
Right.
time, and then they could end up doing that. Anyway, the point is that Abe's mom gets killed by the vampire. It fast forwards to him, 20 years later, 10 years later, and he's this drunkard who all he cares about is trying to get revenge. He's drunk at a bar. This guy Henry approaches him and takes him under his wing as an apprentice to fight vampires.
For no particular reason.
Yeah. He sees him really badly attempt to kill the vampire.
Saves him.
Yeah, berates him for a little bit, tells him how bad he was and how much he hates him, and then is like, but you can train under me as long as you'll kill these vampires.
But you have to. It's hilarious too because they're like. He's like, I want revenge. I'm going to do anything to stop unless I get revenge. And he's like, well, you can't train under me unless you say you're not going to get revenge. You just want to kill all vampires. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but really, I'm still going to get revenge.
Yeah, they tried to make this big deal about him. You can't do it for revenge.
He's like, all right, fine. Teach me. And I won't do it for revenge. I promise.
Right. So the first half of the movie is a young Abe Lincoln hunting vampires, and it shows him reconnect.
You get a brief training montage.
Yeah, you get a training montage,
which is weeks.
Yeah,
quote, weeks of training. They said, and I'm like, give me a break.
Right. So the training montage. He reconnects with the black kid from the beginning, whose name is Will, and he's played by Anthony Mackie. So he becomes his best friend. He becomes best friends or other best friends with this guy named Speed, who is his actual boss. He works in like a grocery store or something.
Some sort of general store.
So those are his two best buddies. He's in law school. He meets Mary Todd. At the time, she's engaged to a guy, but it doesn't really explain. Yeah, it doesn't really explain how that engagement ends, but it ends, and then
they're like instantly Twitter pated, and they start hanging out, even though she was engaged, and they never mentioned what happened to who's Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk, yeah, in an uncredited role, but that wasn't like. It wasn't even a cameo. It was a real
he had multiple
role.
Speaking scenes.
Yeah, but it was still uncredited. I'm wondering if he asked to be taken off of the movie or something like that.
And they probably cut a scene because
they must have, because it didn't just. At one point she was engaged to him, and then the next point, she's on a date with Abe Lincoln. Whatever. So that's the first half of the movie. And then the second half of the movie is him as president 20 or 30 years later.
Right.
And then the Civil War is going on. In this version of the story, the Civil War, it turns out the vampires are fighting on the South.
Because they were using slaves as like a food source.
Yep.
So they support slavery.
I don't know why they couldn't just start killing other people once there aren't slaves anymore, but
or doing
whatever.
It illegally. Like,
yeah.
It was already illegal to like eat the people, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it already was not legal to just kill somebody else's slaves.
Right.
Whatever. Not important. Anyway, vampires are fighting on the side of the South. The North is losing the war until Abe Lincoln suddenly remembers...
Because the vampires were helping them.
Yes, the vampires were on the South. The North was losing. Until Abe Lincoln remembers... I don't know how he possibly forgot, but he remembers that silver kills vampires.
Which he'd been doing for like years.
Yeah, he'd been fighting them for years.
And then he sees his fork and he's like, shit,
man,
I got it.
That's it. It was this big revelation. So then he ends up winning the Civil War. It doesn't show him get killed, but then it shows him... At the end
of the movie, he's going to the theater.
It shows him going to the theater. And the actual end of the movie is Henry, the original vampire hunter, in modern day, picking up another guy
because I don't know if
at
you
a bar.
mentioned it, but the vampire hunter who trained him is a vampire.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
But for some reason, they can't kill each other. There's like some magic force intervenes. Vampires aren't allowed to kill each other. So, so Henry has to get drunkards from bars and teach them how to be badass vampire hunters.
Yeah. It's a real... It's a real...
He's mad about being turned because he used to be one hunter.
It's a real airtight plot. Right. So no holes at all.
Slips through those cracks.
Perfect. So that's the movie. The real intention of this podcast obviously is not to give a play-by-play of the whole movie. It's more about a rating system.
When it's as gripping as this one, you just can't help it.
Yeah, it's more about a rating system, which is that we have 3 different categories that me and Eric will both award points in every category. The categories are acting, visuals, and structure.
Unfortunately, they didn't have a category for or axe twirling. Yeah. Because this movie would have been maxed out.
Yeah. So we can each give each category up to 5 points. And then at the end of the podcast, I'll total up all the points that we give for each movie. And the movie with the most points is considered the better one.
They win.
So, yes, we could have done an honorary category for axe twirling.
Because by our estimates, 45% of the movie was axe twirling.
Was just Abe Lincoln standing there, twirling an axe, just having a good old time. At nothing, by the way, alone,
just
in a room.
Twirling it. Yeah. Or just, like, he'll fight someone, then he'll be standing there, twirl a little bit, go fight someone else, twirl some more. Do an axe twirling. Yes, but that doesn't have anything to do with our first category, which is acting. And I'm going to go ahead and go first on this one. So my acting score for this one, spoiler alert, it's not a good movie. Yeah. But I don't actually have any qualms with the acting. I gave it a 2.5. In my scoring system, a 3 is completely average. I wouldn't have noticed it if I wasn't taking notes for a podcast. I think each individual actor did fine. They did what they needed to do. They didn't bother me. I took off the half point, though, because there was no chemistry between any of the actors. There was no chemistry. And I didn't think they did. I think there was a little bit of, well, not a little bit, but there was a lot of overacting, I think, by a lot of them. So I put 2. Not way less. Yeah, I mean, that's 2, for me, I said, like, it was weird with no chemistry, kind of, and a little bit of, like, overacting, especially on the part of the Abe Lincoln guy, I felt like. Yeah, you thought he was overacting? I wasn't bothered by him at all. I felt like the bad vampires honestly could have
hammed it up a little bit more.
Yeah,
and
they were
I
just
felt
kind
like,
of stoic almost.
right. I felt
With the
like
exception of the one guy in the horse race, he was going like, and like flying around laughing
he was
maniacally.
He was really trying. But no,
Yeah.
for me, the big thing that stuck out was a complete lack of chemistry between these actors. You're supposed to have this group of 3 best friends that's like
Right.
the core of it, which is Abe, Will, which is Anthony Mackie, and then this guy Speed, who is an actor whose face I recognize, but I don't actually know who he is.
I couldn't place him.
I looked through his
know I've seen
filmography, and I didn't recognize any of it. I think it said he's from Westworld also. I haven't watched Westworld. But
I haven't either.
so these 3 guys are supposed to be best friends, and for half the movie, I couldn't even tell if Will and Speed even liked each other.
Right.
So it just completely
And I didn't really
fell
like
flat.
the Mary Todd character either.
Mary
It was-
Elizabeth Winstead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was great in that role, but it wasn't enough to bother me. I just
Was it Winstead? I thought it was like Todd or something.
Well, the character's name is Mary Todd.
Oh, right,
The
right.
actress's name is Mary Elizabeth
Okay.
Winstead. Yes. Sorry about that. We'll just call her
She
Mary
seemed
Todd.
kind of like flat, but you never know if that's like the writing too.
I think it was the
didn't do it
writing.
terrible.
I've seen her in other stuff. She was the 10 Cloverfield Lane girl, and she was good
Okay.
in
Yeah,
that.
she was
So,
good in that.
and I think she was just trying to be a stoic character in this, but there was
Yeah,
nothing.
Just nothing between them.
There was nothing for her to work with, and the 2 of them had no chemistry.
It was such
so
a stilted like love story type arc. Like it didn't really make sense. And,
it
like,
was. Yeah, because it started off. She's engaged to this
And then all
guy.
of a sudden they're like hanging out, and she's like, "So are we on a date or what? Are you gonna?" And it's like, "Wait, what? Is she still married?"
Yeah,
or,
then
like,
they're
still
hanging
engaged?
out, and she's trying to kiss him, and he's not letting her.
Yeah,
and I
he's
was like,
being all
why?
coy and like, "Oh, turn
I was
away
like,
so
why
she
didn't
can
why didn't he let her
kiss his
kiss him?
cheek."
Yeah, this is really
gay.
yeah. The whole thing just was a little off-putting. But again, not enough. It didn't piss me off. I will say
So we were
that
pretty close on that
the
one.
guy Bartz, who was the vampire that actually killed Abe Lincoln's mom,
Yeah.
I recognized him and realized he was actually from Eon Flux
Which we
from
just
last week,
watched.
which I had pointed him out. He was the Trevor Goodchild character.
Right.
I had pointed him out as being a surprisingly good actor in that
He was
one.
the only one, like you said, who wasn't like sleepwalking as the bad vampire.
Yeah. So I think I think he actually must be. Maybe I'll look for him in other roles. I think he actually is kind of
maybe.
okay, because he was also one of the only standouts in this one, trying to have fun with his silly vampire role.
Right.
The only one who seemed to really understand what the movie needed. So anyway, so what you gave it a
I gave
2,
it 2, and you
and
gave
I
it
gave it
2.5.
a 2.5.
So pretty
So
close.
basically the same. The next category is visuals, and
Yeah.
I'll go first for this one too.
Okay.
I thought the visuals were laughably bad, so
I agree.
I gave it a 1.5.
I exactly gave it a 1.5.
Yeah, a 1 is like
Now,
that
the one-
pisses you off, and
Right,
you can
and now the
barely
only
watch
thing,
it.
pretty
yeah.
much the only thing that wasn't bad was stuff like sets and costumes. Like a
Yes.
general look of like, okay, you walk into the room and this movie's on and you just see a scene. It didn't look like cheap or too hokey or anything like that. The vampires look terrible when they went into
their
vampire
mouths?
mode. And it looks so
Oh.
CG, they just get open mouth and all these like weird
Oh, they
spiny
did the
angler
big
teeth.
mummy mouth
Yeah, the
where it
mummy mouth
opened
with
really
anglerfish
wide.
teeth would come in and they'd be like, "Wah!" And then it would go away
and
back
gray
to normal.
teeth and stuff.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
go away to normal. Yeah, so the only really effects that I liked was when they would like go invisible. But they didn't really use it.
That was
Like,
fine.
That
yeah,
just looked kind of cool.
It was
but
just everything that was CG was
axe
terrible.
twirling was
And there was a fight that we referenced
Yeah, it
that
was
that was
hilarious.
in a horse
when he
stampede.
finally goes back to get the guys that killed his mom.
Yeah, when he's finally given what's the word I'm looking for? When he's finally given approval,
Permission to get
permission
revenge.
to kill the guy who killed his mom. The 2 of them have this preposterous
Prolonged fight.
that is in the middle of a huge group of stampeding horses.
The
so they're like,
Brumbies.
so they're like jumping on top of the horses' backs.
One
and they're
thing, no, don't forget he gets a horse thrown at him. The vampire like grabs a horse leg, throws
Yeah.
the whole horse at him, and it hits him.
and it hits him, and then he just gets up and.
Well, that's something we should mention. So any of this makes sense. Is that early on in his training, the guy takes him out to the woods and is like, chop down this tree with one strike. And he's like, that's impossible, dude. And then he like gets him mad. And the guy, Abe Lincoln finally like smashes through this massive tree with one axe blow. Yeah. And he's like, how did I do that? And he's like, that's the power of truth.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay.
They have magic truth power.
So for the rest of the movie, we're like, is he using his truth powers
Yeah.
or what? So I guess getting a horse thrown on you and surviving is using your
It was
truth
his
powers.
truth power,
And when
yeah.
he was able to jump from horse to horse too.
Yeah, so
was
the
truth
vampires
powers.
have kind of standard vampire
Superhuman strength, yeah.
But yeah, the people, I guess if you're just extra truthful, then you can you can have horses thrown at you and you're
Or
okay.
chop through trees, single blows.
Right. So we did a lot of cracking up at the fight scenes.
That fight was hilarious. I would
It
recommend
was.
watching
It
that fight scene. Because the vampire too will like just jump away laughing maniacally and then throws a horse at him. And it's like, what the fuck? And the horses didn't look good. It was all CG.
Oh no, it was terrible. And the
It was
horses
like
don't
Mufasa
react.
getting run over by the wildebeest
Yeah,
or something.
the horses don't react to having someone jumping around on their back. I mean
literally like a
jumping.
video game.
I mean they're with their feet running and jumping onto horses
like
as they're
those
running.
scenes in the movies where they're in cabs in New York or something like Men in Black, jumping on the.
And the horses just
But
keep
it's just
on
the
keeping
horses
on.
It's literally like a video game.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
hopping over like some moving platforms or something.
Yes. So the horse fight was ridiculous, but
hilarious.
hilariously ridiculous. I'm happy
Yeah.
to have had that in my life, and I
Right.
can have experienced that. And then we laughed when he cut the tree down with one strike. It
Right.
just
So there was some humor in
yeah.
this.
So, but it was. I mean, the visuals were laughably
Yeah,
bad.
they
they
were
were
not
terrible.
good.
And then this is one
The
of those
train
movies.
shit at the end was
Yeah, this is
goofy.
one of those movies that was meant to be seen in 3D, I guess.
Right,
But
so
the
this-
only thing they could do is they would just add random shit floating around in the air to
Like an
to-
extra spray of blood or a wood splinter or ember. The final scene was just this embers going everywhere from the train engine.
Right. The last fight scene, they are on a train. And a lot of times they're on top of the train on the fight scene. And there's just, the air is full of embers. It's not
Right. It's
every
like a
once in a
forest
while.
fire.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, that may have supposed to have been from the bridge.
it
was
happened
burning.
before she set the bridge
It
on
did
fire.
even?
It was from the very beginning. There
Yeah.
were just embers
And you
flying
could see
around
him
their head.
whipping past everything, and you're like, this is. And there was knives. Like, it was totally made to just
There
be
was one
3D.
time that a guy threw a knife and it cut an ember in half.
Right. And
So-
you're like, that's not a thing. You see it go slow motion and split a floating ember in half. And there was a lot of superfluous slow-mo in this, too.
Yes. Yes.
That was annoying visually.
So the choreography was stupid. Watching him twirl his axe around was comical. And
right. The horse fight was ridiculous. The vampires didn't look cool.
Right.
They looked terrible.
Right.
So visually, it was really kind of had a lot of distracting stuff in it and just like comically bad.
Yeah, and for the last half of the movie, they have the main guy in old age makeup to
Which
try
looked
and make
terrible.
him to try and make him look more like Abe Lincoln. That was pretty
Well, it was
distracting.
funny because they started out with a kid who was blonde. He goes to black hair as a youth and then back to like brown hair as an adult.
They
and I'm
could
like,
not get this
they're
hair
like,
color
yeah, just
in
make
order.
everybody have black hair. What the hell's the problem?
Right. The original kid that played him looked like fucking Ron Weasley.
Right.
And then the guy in real life has like black hair,
Or
so
dark
that was
browns, that
yeah.
worked. But then when they made it
I don't know
older,
why they made it
They tried
lighter.
to make him older, but instead of making it like gray, they just put it like
There's brown.
browner.
Right.
Yeah, like made it kind of blondish.
With Anthony Mackie, they didn't even try. They just put a little baby powder.
Yeah,
in
because
his
it's funny
hair.
because like Abe Lincoln, I think we commented on this. Like Abe Lincoln is like 30 years old. He's old, and Mackie walks in, he's like exactly the same with a little baby powder on his hair to make it look like grayish a little bit.
Yeah,
but
and
he looks
with-
exactly the same.
And
Otherwise,
with Mary Todd Lincoln, they did put some
They put
makeup
some
on
gray
her,
on
but she
her.
just kind of looked like a zombie because
Yeah.
they tried to put like old age
just made her
makeup just
ashen.
to make like her eyes a little sunken and dark.
They just made her ashen.
So the old age makeup was mostly just
it was a
distracting,
joke. Yeah,
right? And I will say. Again, I've said this before. I'm sure I'll say it again. Visuals also includes the attractiveness of
Right.
the cast.
there wasn't much there for.
I was kind of confused for the first half because as I was watching it before he got the old age makeup, I was looking at this dude that was playing Abe Lincoln, and I've never seen him in anything before. I have no idea who this guy is. I still don't even remember his name. And I was like, he looks like he should be more attractive than he is. And it was kind of weirding me out. So I started looking up pictures of him, and I'm fairly certain they had a prosthetic nose on him.
to make him look more like Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because he didn't look like Abe Lincoln anyway.
Right.
Especially not as a young man. They did an okay job when he was older because
you
you
put
could
any
put
tall, lanky guy in the beard and the stovepipe hat, and you're gonna look sort of like
right.
Abe
You put
Lincoln.
the silly beard on him
Yeah.
without the mustache and
The chin
yeah.
strap. You're gonna look sort of like Abe Lincoln.
Right, but as a young man, there was nothing they were gonna do to make him look like Abe Lincoln. So I'm
no one knows
confused.
what young Abe Lincoln looks like anyway. So what
Right.
difference does
So
it
I'm
make?
confused as to why they just put this weird prosthetic nose on him and took a pretty good looking guy and made
Made
him
him
just a
goofy
little
looking.
bit less good looking, which I'm like, I could have had a little bit more to look at in this movie. Thanks a lot, assholes.
Yeah, I guess they just making a lot of poor visual decisions.
Yeah, they just wanted him to be ugly. So I was a little
There was
mad at
one
that.
part too that some of the scenes from the training were probably switched around. So there was one scene where like the training was over and he was getting beat up by the guy the whole training, and then he goes and does something and they go back to like doing some research and he just has like a swollen face for no reason, and it's like, wait, what?
And nothing had happened to
Nothing
him
had
in the
happened. Why is
previous
his face
scene.
swollen?
Yeah, so I think they put some of the montage scenes out of
Right.
order.
Yeah, so there was a lot of goofiness.
So we
visually.
both gave visuals 1.5 because
yeah.
they sucked.
They sucked.
So I have a feeling structure is going to be a little bit of a similar situation. So
Probably.
for structure, I gave it a 1.5.
I gave it a
Also,
1.
yeah, I'm not going to argue with you
There's
on
a
that
lot
one.
wrong with it. Because like we said, there's little editing quirks like that. There was plot stuff that they just didn't explain or didn't make sense. The pacing of the movie was set up in this really weird way where like this movie, we both thought it was like 2.5 hours long when we were done with it. And it was only an hour and 45 minutes. Because they had this complete dead zone. The movie is almost two mini movies where they have like young Abe Lincoln, that whole story arc almost gets completed. And then then he gets old, and like while he's getting into politics and stuff, there's this like dead zone in the movie. And then it starts the next story arc of like winning the Civil War. But they're almost completely different. Really, the only thing that connects them is the fact that there's the same vampire leading the vampires and Abe Lincoln. But like it has nothing to do with the earlier part of the movie.
Nope.
Like he's already killed the guy that killed his parents.
Yep.
Like it's two different mini movies that are separated by this like really boring like interlude.
Yeah. Yep, I completely agree. They totally fucked up the pacing. And the first half of the movie, I was okay because we were laughing at it. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. It was a reasonable amount of fun to make fun of.
Right.
But then the
I
second
wrote something
half
down here where he was like, because when he goes to kill the guy the first time, he doesn't know that the guy's a vampire, obviously.
Yeah.
So he just goes there. He tries to shoot, and it's funny because I was just before the scene. I was like, "Hey, what do you think the failure rate was on like these old flintlock muskets?" I was like, "They had to like fail all the time, probably."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I don't know." So then he goes to shoot him and like fizzles out, and I was like, Which actually happened in the other movie too.
It
There's
did,
a failure.
yeah. Both of
One
these had, like,
weird
musket
linking,
yeah.
Which, like I said, that's fairly common though, probably
Yeah.
back then. But anyways, so the musket fails, and then he starts like freaking out and running away from this guy who's unarmed.
Right.
And I was like, why is he being a little bitch? Like, he locks himself in, like, an outhouse, and the guy's, like, looking through the crack, like, hoo-hoo-hoo, why don't you reload?
And at that point, he had no idea that he was a vampire.
Right.
There would have been no reason
guy.
to run.
I just would have, like, thrown it down and started fighting him.
Right, kick him in the balls.
Or hit him over the head with it. They should have at least had him do that, and then the guy, like, throws him across the room or something to have him realize, like, what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
But instead, he just, like, points the thing at him, it fizzles out, and he, like, instantly, like, gasps and runs away, and the guy's like, ha, 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 like, chasing him.
Yeah.
And then he gets thrown up a building.
Yeah. And well, that's when Henry, the vampire /
That was a
vampire
really
hunter,
weird like edit too. It just that
Yes.
scene like cut instantly.
Yes.
Like abruptly, and you're just like, whoa, okay,
right?
what the hell is that?
Yeah.
It didn't end with him being like knocked out or whatever. Just all of a sudden he's like this guy sliding up the side of a building from being thrown, and then it just instantly ends.
Yeah. So Henry, the vampire / vampire hunter, has superpowers. At this point, we're not supposed to know he's a vampire.
I mean,
so he takes.
obviously,
So
I
he.
thought that
So
was
he
pretty
shows
obvious,
up.
like, how
I
the
thought it
hell-
was obvious too. But he shows up and he saves. I'm just kind of explaining what's
Right.
happening in the scene because if people haven't seen the movie, they would have no idea what we were talking about. But he shows up. He sees Abe Lincoln getting his ass kicked.
Right.
So he saves him from the vampire. And what Eric's talking about is in this weird scene, Henry takes the vampire that Abe Lincoln was trying to kill and throws him vertically up the
Like
side
slams
of
him
a
against
building.
the side of the building and then throws him straight up, and he's like peeling the siding off as he goes all
I
the way
think that
up.
was the first time that we both just cracked up.
laughing.
Yeah, this is in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, and it was their first major action
Right.
scene, and me and Eric are just like, bah, what the
So
fuck
there's like
just
weird
happened?
stuff like that. There's a lot of weird dialogue too.
Yes,
Like writing.
you called a lot of the.
Yeah, so there was a lot of dialogue, or like little bits of dialogue that were like so cliched that I just would say it before they even said it. I don't remember any of the exact examples. Did you write them down?
One of them was, we already said, Silver will kill the vampires. So at the very end, when Abe Lincoln was about to kill the big daddy vampire, Adam,
Right.
who was the other guy's boss, he's like run out of bullets, but he's got this silver pocket watch that he wraps around his hand. And the main vampire like sees that he's run out of silver bullets or something. He goes, "Where is your silver now?" And
I was
Eric
like,
goes, "Right here." Right before Abe Lincoln goes, "Right here," and then
Right.
punches him with the
it was that obvious.
because it was things like that. There was another point that it was after old Abe Lincoln remembered that when you get like silver can kill vampires. He's talking to his advisors and they're like,
this gonna be
"How
my-
much silver do we want to use?" And he
Right.
says, and Eric went, "All of it." And Abe Lincoln goes, "All of it."
Yeah.
So just extremely cliched.
Well, it's set up though, because like, why would you ask how much you want? You just get as much as you can.
Yeah.
They have to make weapons out of it. Just find out all you can get. Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah, you could tell the line that they wanted to set
was
up
all
by
of
the
it,
previous. Yeah.
But it was beyond that, because there was one that I was just cracking up, dying laughing. It was so stupid. I think it was during the very beginning of the boring middle part where he was going to become a politician, and he says, and I quote, "I would fight not with an axe, but with words." And we're just like, I'm sick of the axe. Boring.
Yeah.
And the next 20 minutes was exactly like you would expect after an utterance like that.
Once he put down the axe and fought with words, it was horrible.
Yeah. And then there was another one where they were in New Orleans, and one of the characters goes, "Take it you all come from up north?" And I'm like, "You're in New Orleans. You can't come from the south."
Yeah. But did you come out of the water?
Yeah, swim up out of the Gulf. Give me a break.
Yeah, so it's just, every line was just a setup for another line later that you could tell was coming. The dialogue was
just
bad.
random filler that was not, like, uninspired to say the least.
Right.
And awkward.
Right. The dialogue was bad. The characters were very poorly set up. As we said, there was no chemistry between any of them.
They're fairly shallow. A lot of them were fairly shallow. Like, he
Right.
met this guy at his first job. Oh, they're best friends now.
Yeah.
Like, this structure is just not good
And really,
at all.
one of the worst things about this movie is the tone. This movie is dead serious about
Right.
having Abraham Lincoln be a serious vampire hunter.
Right.
Like, this is a ridiculous premise.
It should be a joke, yeah.
But they're treating it as though they're going to make this a legitimate part
By
of
having
Abraham
twirl an
Lincoln's
axe
legacy.
For 45% of the movie.
Yeah, like, you're going to be so
Like, you
awed.
really wonder after this movie if maybe he was a bounty
Maybe
hunter.
that's what
a
slavery
vampire
really
hunter.
was. You know, like it was
Right.
trying to make some sort of weird statement about slavery, and it was so serious. There was no humor. There was no
Except
fun.
for horse fighting and fighting with words.
The
instead
only
of an
humor
axe.
was accidental.
Unintentional. And that's why you know something is. So actually, it's not bad for that in that aspect, but you would probably want to fast forward because I literally, when it was over, I said, check how long that was. I figured it would be 2.5 hours long, and it wasn't even 2.
It was an hour and 45 minutes.
So a fairly normal movie length.
Yeah. And it
But it had
did
such
not,
a doldrums in the middle.
Right. I can't justify in my mind giving it the hard 1 because to me, like, Suicide Squad
For me,
is
that
a
was
1.
a 0 or a half.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, see, for me, Ender's Game was a 0. Suicide Squad, yeah, maybe that was about a half. But this one, whatever, 1.5. We were able to laugh at it, at least.
I think I gave Ender's Game a half, too.
Yeah, I know. I really...
Because at least, like, there wasn't quite as much, like, literal editing mistakes and, like, totally nonsensical shit as there was in, like, Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But this one, like, there was plenty that you were like, wait, what? And, like, weird edits, terrible dialogue, terrible pacing and actual structure of the movie. Doesn't make any sense.
Ender's Game got a 0 for me because there's no way I would have finished that movie if not for the podcast.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln, I would have finished it.
Yeah,
it
'cause
wasn't.
we just-
It wasn't a movie I was gonna walk
We
away
weren't really
from.
struggling to watch it or anything.
Right. We didn't get up and do chores.
Because we were just like, pfft.
Yeah.
But...
So you
like
did-
there were like continuity errors, like with his face being swollen and like stuff like that. So it was not good. It was very bad. Like the maniacal horse fight, throwing a horse. He gets a horse thrown at him. People,
it's all worth it.
right? Everyone should go watch the horse fight.
Yes.
If you have free access to this movie, at least watch the horse fight.
Yes, I also recommend this. So you did 2 for acting, 1.5 visuals, and 1 structure.
Yep.
So 4.5, and I did 5.5. So that's a 10 total.
Yeah.
All right, my math is getting better.
It's getting quicker.
Yeah, I'm so smart.
You're refining your methods. You are evolving.
All right, so moving on to the next 19th century monster mashup, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. As I said, 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was
PNZ.
from last year, and God, no one saw this movie. I looked it up because I wasn't even sure if it came out in theaters. I kind of was half expecting it to have been a TV movie.
Well, that's almost what I was thinking because, like, I do remember hearing of the movie, like the concept somewhere,
Right.
and like, oh, they're making a movie Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I don't remember when it came out, and I think Abe Lincoln got a considerable more of a push, like
Yes.
advertising wise,
Yes.
than this movie. And
Yeah.
that's probably all of it.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I don't know that they had much hope for.
Yeah.
But the quick synopsis of it is it hews pretty closely to the original Pride and Prejudice story.
Yeah.
It really just adds zombies
Right.
into the world of Pride and Prejudice.
Right.
So I don't want to go through it too much. Pride and Prejudice is the story of a woman in early 19th century England named Elizabeth Bennet. She's the oldest of 5 sisters. And because there are no boys in the family, they're all obsessed with marrying the sisters off so that the inheritance for the family kind of stays in the family. And so the whole movie is just about various people.
Well, they were saying there was no inheritance. They were trying to like
True, yeah,
bring some into it.
Yeah,
by
because
getting,
of inheritance issues, they're very concerned about who these girls
particularly
marry.
the mom.
Yeah. So the whole movie is just different men courting the different girls. And
Successfully or not.
Yeah.
And then they add in a zombie
yeah, so the
backdrop.
major characters are Mr. Darcy is the one that Elizabeth ends up with. He's a rich guy who is aloof and kind of rude and whatnot. Darcy's best friend is Bingley, who is another rich guy who ends up with Elizabeth's younger sister, Jane. She's the second in line. And then another main character is this guy, Wickham, who grew up with
He's
Darcy.
The pastor.
Yeah.
Or it's like
No, Wickham is not a pastor.
Oh, he's the lieutenant.
Yeah. So Wickham grew up with Darcy, but they are now enemies as adults, and you find out why over the course of the movie. And Eric just alluded to the pastor, who is another one of the suitors for
He's like
all
a
of the
goofy one.
daughters.
Yeah, he's like
basically.
going after one. And he's like, okay, fine. How about the next one?
He's actually their cousin,
Right.
and he's just trying to
Get married.
Yeah, he's just trying to get married, so he'll marry whoever, and he's kind of like comic relief. So it takes all of those elements and adds to this world that there has been a zombie plague that has changed, it has had to like incorporate itself into society in early 19th century Britain. So each family that can afford it will send their children off to be trained to fight zombies. The richer people go to Japan. The less well-off go to China. So there's a little bit of like a class difference there, whether you trained in Japan or China.
That's like supposed to be the better one.
Yeah. So they go through and they do all the things that you expect 19th century people to do, but every once in a while zombies will attack and they'll have to like leave their dance to go fight zombies and stuff like that. So that is the whole premise of the movie. Getting into the ratings.
I have a feeling we were going to be a lot different on this one.
I think so. I predict I'm going to give this a lot higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I gave it fairly high.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe not. So for acting, I gave it a 3.5.
I gave it the exact same.
Because it was better than average.
And you have a couple like really accomplished. You have like Charles Dance.
Hey, you had Lannisters. You had two Lannisters in this movie.
Lena Headey or Hetty. Lena Headey.
Headley.
And yeah, it's Headley. Right, and Charles Dance, and all the girls were fine.
This is
and there was like a lot of little nuanced stuff that like worked. Like you had to get across through facial expressions.
The chemistry
and stuff like
was
that.
good.
Good chemistry.
I was totally about
and, like,
the
transformation
Darcy and
between
Elizabeth.
like people who are initially are supposed to hate each other,
right,
or be like pissed off at each other, and then slowly coming to actually realize that they like each other and stuff like that. So they did that. All that was done fairly well.
And I don't know if these
and like the tension. Sorry,
I didn't know many of these actors. I don't know if they're kind of more famous in England. One of them was a Doctor Who. One of them was
Abbey and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe. One of them was definitely a Doctor Who. The guy who played the pastor was one of the more recent Doctor Who's. So this is a movie that actually got like decent actors in it,
right.
And as a result, it's a 3.5. Yeah,
and all the girls even were. Despite being, young, mostly they haven't done anything huge. They were all good too. And there was only really 2 of them that it focused on.
Yeah.
The older dark-haired one, and then the second
Elizabeth
one.
and Jane, who are the oldest and second eldest.
Because I think in the book the other ones are like 12 or 13.
I think so. In this movie,
they're all pretty much the same age.
Yeah, the mid-teenagers, older teenagers. But the actresses are like young 20s.
And they're all the actors are probably from like 21 to 28 or something. So.
Right. But this is the kind of movie that makes me wonder why movies ever cast bad actors.
Like, why does it seem so hard? Right? Because this
is a nothing movie, and they went through and they got really attractive. Spoiler alert! Really attractive people.
Exactly.
To
all
do
really
a pretty good job in their silly Pride and Prejudice and zombie movie that made no money. So
and didn't have any hope of being like critically acclaimed.
So
or
why
anything
does
like
fucking Lily Collins ever get roles? Because that girl can't do shit with a role. Like, she just shows up, she reads her lines with her big old eyebrows.
Any of the chicks from this one, too.
Right? Yeah, the main girl from this could have been in Snow White.
Right,
like,
she would have been better.
Watching a movie like this baffles me as to why
Right, 'cause
why
this
you
is
would
not-
ever cast a
I mean,
bad
I guess
actress
it's just getting a
or
good
bad
casting
actor.
director or
Yeah.
something. That may be all there is to it.
Yeah, so I guess this was a fairly good casting. I mean, they got a couple Lannisters, so must not have been too bad.
And I think we're probably underestimating how like awkward writing can sort of bork your performance.
True.
You know what I mean? Like if
True.
you took any of these girls and put them in like the Snow White movie or something, maybe it would seem just as stiff. And
Maybe.
you know what I mean?
I don't know. You seem to be a lot more forgiving of Lily Collins than I am in that episode. I think
Like I was saying, it felt like I
can't
don't
imagine.
think that
I
was
can't
her.
imagine.
It just
that,
felt. I can't imagine anyone else. What would they be doing differently there? They'd maybe
you
seem
can
a little.
just tell that
Well,
she's
she just seems
bad.
kind of detached, I
Yeah.
guess. But like I said, it's hard to know how much of that is like. I don't know. I don't think she's as good, but
Right.
I thought I wasn't quite as harsh.
Yeah, but it confuses me as to why someone like that ever gets roles when these people are out there and they're better looking, they're better actors. Okay, whatever. Like you
And
said,
so, I mean, that's even not best comparison because there's people who are a lot worse than
Yes,
her
a lot
and a lot
worse.
worse looking. Like
Yeah.
she's at least hot and
Yeah.
it's like whatever. She's not stinking the whole thing up.
Right.
But there's some where it's just like terrible, and you're like, I doubt these people made a shitload of money.
No.
In this thing, so like, why would you get someone so much worse when these people are out there? How does something like Game of Thrones and all these HBO shows never have someone who's a bad actor? Not
Yes.
a single person ever
Right.
is like, wow, that person's not good.
Yeah.
And these movies have no one who is good.
yeah,
Or not this movie, but this one was all
right. But
good.
some of these other
This movie
movies,
had no
you're
bad
just
actors.
like, why did this guy get?
And even
guy
minor
get this
roles
role?
like the mom and stuff like that.
Were
Like
fine,
where
yeah.
you really got the idea that these were like genuine, like they got the idea across of the emotions they were supposed to and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
Yeah, so I couldn't go 4 because 4
exactly.
is like
They just didn't really do anything. They just did exactly what they needed to
Yeah.
maximize that role.
Yeah.
So right, 4 wasn't like a standout like, wow, this movie has good acting.
Yeah.
But you're like, they were above average. They did a good job.
Right. So moving on to visuals, I actually gave visuals the exact same score, 3.5.
I gave it just a 3.
Just a 3.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because they're all like I said, they're all attractive people. The zombie stuff was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't fantastic, but it was okay.
It was okay gore effects. I thought
Decent
the fights
fighting,
I thought the
decent
fights were
choreography.
fun.
Yeah.
So I was on board with the fight choreography.
I think the PG-13 rating hamstrung them a little bit on the gore effects.
Yeah,
Because there were a
probably.
little bit that was like you just saw like a slash and didn't really see what happened.
Yeah.
But at all like costumes and set, they were filmed in like real mansions or estates and all that stuff, and
Right.
so everything looked fine.
And you know what? I was on board with the silly premise of the 19th century clothes with the knives and everything
Right, in
underneath.
your garters or your
I was
bustles or whatever.
Yeah, I was all right with that.
Yeah.
So I gave it the extra half point. The people are really attractive. The
Yeah.
main girl is super.
Well, that's what's so
you got
funny.
You got a lot of heaving bosoms.
Yeah, a lot
you know?
of bodices and everything.
Yeah.
But that was so funny. Is for the, I mean, they kind of got away from it, but for like the first 30 minutes of the movie, they pretend like
Like
the
she's very plain looking.
Yeah, they're talking about how plain looking the oldest daughter is because everyone wants like the blonde sister, and the other one is like she's super hot, and I
Yeah.
think she's better looking than the other one.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh, she's like rather homely, sir, and all this. I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
That's not even. It's not playing well because she's obviously
Yeah.
not homely.
Right. The main girl is absolutely gorgeous, and the second eldest sister, she just looks like a runway model. Which
like
to me
yeah.
that's not a look that appeals to me, but she is
Right.
significantly less attractive than the main girl, but they all
And even if
want
she
that
wasn't
second
less,
one. Yeah.
like to call the
Yeah.
dark-haired girl like homely and stuff is
Right.
like the guy didn't want to dance with her and
Yeah.
stuff. He's like, not her. And it's
Ew,
like, what
ew.
the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, give me a break.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. But I at least appreciated that she was as attractive as she
Right.
was, and
I
the men were all
appreciate
attractive.
that.
The men were all attractive too. I had fun with the fights.
Got points obviously for the cast and generally overall sets and stuff. But the one thing that I docked a little bit for was there was multiple points in the movie where I had trouble like visually following the scene for a second.
Oh yeah.
Like it would be like, remember there was one that showed like in the dungeon and we're like, wait, is that a person sitting? Like you didn't even know what
You're
it was.
right. Yeah,
And there was a
he
few
was
other,
looking from the top of the stairs,
Right.
and I went, I don't know what he's looking
and that
at.
happened a few times where there'd be like a fight scene and you're like, did they hit this person? Did they jump over? Like what exactly is going on? How many people are they fighting here? Something like that. Whereas brief but like noticeable.
Yeah.
So, like little
Yeah.
things like that. And the fact that the zombie stuff was okay, but not great.
I don't know.
we're only off by half a point.
Right. I overtly enjoyed it, so I gave it the extra half point. Structure is a little bit of a different story.
Yeah,
So
I
I gave it a
agree.
2
I
for
gave it a 2
structure.
also.
Yeah.
We're really
so we
close
were
on
only
these.
half a point off on this one.
And the reason, honestly, my main beef with the structure was that it was too Pride and Prejudice and not enough zombie.
Yes.
It was literally like
Yes.
they took the exact Pride and Prejudice movie and changed it as little as possible and added like 3 zombie scenes. And I was like, just needed to be more of with the
It
zombie
did.
world.
I 100% agree. I enjoyed the zombie stuff.
Right.
And in between the zombie stuff, it was just
like watching Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a lower end version of Pride and Prejudice. Right. Down to the T, down to the the dialogue, what was going on, the interpersonal relationships.
Who ended up with who, and like everything.
They should have incorporated the zombies more into like changing the story a little bit.
Right.
Instead
or at
of
least
just
made it
like
more directly involved.
Right. And I even enjoyed, there was the scene where Darcy first proposes to Elizabeth. At this point, she still hates him. She still thinks he's an asshole. And he
just realized he likes her.
He super awkwardly proposes to her in a very insulting way.
Right.
And then she turns him down. In the book, that's how it goes.
Right.
In this one, it's exactly the same, basically the same dialogue, except they have a fight scene during it. And
Right.
I was having fun with that.
Right.
I was totally
But
fine
that's what
with
they need
taking
to do with all of it.
Yes, they needed to do that a lot more. So Lena Headey is playing Darcy's aunt, who is a very high society, very rich woman, very important.
But she's also supposed to be a super warrior.
Yes. So in the book, she's just a rich old lady. In this movie, she's a rich middle-aged lady who, like Eric said, is a super warrior.
Who's known
we never
for,
got to see her fight.
She didn't do anything.
They definitely should have had her fight. They should have had Charles Dance fight.
Right.
Like, they should have had some fucking Lannisters killing zombies.
Because they also made a
movie.
big deal about how the dad was more worried about making sure they all knew how to fight and everything than he was about
Right.
making sure they got married.
Right.
So they should have shown how much of a badass he was, or shown how they day-to-day stuff. Yeah. So they just needed to do more to make, because literally all they did was take the exact Pride and Prejudice story, and when something happened in the real story, they just made sure it happened sort of because of the zombie storyline and not because of what originally would have made it happen.
Yes.
But other than that, it was identical.
Or the zombie storyline would just happen and not even change anything.
Right. Like some of this wasn't even
they would
affected at
just
all.
be at a ball, and Darcy would ask Elizabeth to dance, and instead of dancing, they would have to go fight a zombie. And
Right.
then the outcome would be exactly the same.
Right.
So they needed to incorporate, because the thing that this movie did
a little
correctly.
more original.
Yeah, the thing this movie did correctly was get the tone right. It knew
It did a
that
good
this
job,
was
yeah.
silly. It was like, okay, we have a goofy premise. We're going to try to make it fun and funny. But
it was only in bursts, and then it would go
Right.
right back to Pride and Prejudice, normal Pride and Prejudice
Right,
movie.
and that's where they went wrong. They should have just gone. They should have gone harder on that zombie angle.
Exactly.
So whenever the zombie stuff was happening, it was fine, or it was fun. And then whenever it was only Pride and Prejudice stuff, I was kind of like,
It felt like real stop and go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're back to the movie now. Okay, now we're
Yeah.
watching a play. Oh, we're back to.
So it made the movie feel longer.
It
and
did.
actually, it was probably a little too long. This should have
Probably.
been an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
But it was an hour and 50 minutes, and that was probably at least 10 minutes too
Yeah.
long. I don't know why movies
At least
don't...
the way
yeah.
they did it. If, like they said, they did it like
Maybe
we were
if they
talking
did,
about.
they had done more zombie stuff
Right.
throughout, it wouldn't have felt
Because
that long.
still, the overall movie was still more of a Pride and Prejudice than it was a zombie movie.
Right.
And they needed to cross over into well, this is a zombie movie, not this is a Pride and Prejudice movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they didn't really
Right.
do that.
But I gotta say, I mean, my
When they did it,
score,
they did
my
it well.
score for this movie is pretty high.
It
I
is,
did
yeah.
3.5, and 2, so I gave it a 9. When
And I
you
give it
did
8.5.
yeah,
I get 3.5, 3 and 2.
and I went and looked back over my scores for the other movies. This is my second
Behind
highest
Starship
rated movie
Troopers,
behind
yeah.
Starship Troopers. I mean, it's a distant second
Right.
to Starship Troopers, and my score represents the fact that I did enjoy it more while I was watching it. It
Right.
was more of like a real movie than I expected.
Me too.
I was expecting more TV movie
I was
quality.
expecting more to be like the one we did watch, just
Right.
for Abe Lincoln one, to be honest.
Right,
Like
yeah.
laughable graphics and goofy
Exactly.
stuff.
And when
maybe more outright jokes and stuff.
Yeah,
but
so at the beginning when the fighting started, I was like, "Hey, this is I'm into this more than I thought I was going to be."
well, it shows all the girls like, all right, tell me more.
Yeah. Heaving bosom.
Right.
Sure. Okay. All right, I'm on board. So we gave this movie 17.5. We gave Abraham Lincoln a 10. So we have
Yeah.
a very, very clear winner.
winner.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It was the tone that got it, the better acting,
Yeah.
the better fight
Better looking
scenes.
people.
Yeah, everything about it was better. So
Yeah, literally everything.
Yeah, so if you want to watch a 19th century monster mashup movie, just go with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It's fairly
honestly
fun.
the only thing that I could say that they messed up, like we were saying, is it felt like they couldn't decide whether they were trying to get the Pride and Prejudice people to watch a zombie movie or whether they were trying to get zombie movie people to watch a Pride and Prejudice movie. And it felt like the former, where they tried to get Pride and Prejudice people to watch a zombie movie.
Right.
So it was too much Pride and Prejudice,
Yes.
where they should have gone the other
They
direction.
should have, yes, you're right. They should have gone more heavy in the zombie direction. Because as someone who is totally fine watching zombie movies, and a little bored with Pride. I can watch a Pride and Prejudice movie, but it's not something I do willingly. The last time I watched a Pride and Prejudice movie was when I had my wisdom teeth out, and I was coming off of the anesthesia. And
was it the one with Keira Knightley?
No, this was before that. It was the one with Colin Firth,
okay.
the 90s miniseries one. I got my wisdom teeth out when I was 16. So I think my family had tried to get me to watch it before, so they were trying to watch it while I was like asleep.
Just passed out.
But I woke up halfway through and came like lumbering out, and I was just cracking up at it. I thought it was great.
Imagine if you'd watched this one on drugs.
Yeah. So that was the last time I willingly watched a Pride and Prejudice movie, and it was even sort of foisted upon me.
That's funny.
But hey, this one was all right. Had a good time with it. Abraham Lincoln. Just pick out the scenes we were talking about.
Watch the horse scene. And yeah, this one's worth watching, the Pride and Prejudice one. I would say it's worth watching.
And even Abraham Lincoln, watch the
just
first
know
half.
what you're into, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
or
just...
watch a riff tracks if they make it.
Yeah, it could probably be a pretty good riff tracks.
It could, because we were cracking up, and I made up quite a few jokes, and there was enough goofy stuff happening. The middle part would still be rough.
Yeah, it wasn't a miserable experience.
No,
but
it was just bad.
Yeah, but it was, I will say, it probably was one of the worst movies that we've watched.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit more of a spread.
But
with
honestly,
this
it's
one
still easier
expected.
to sit through than something like Ender's Game or like
Alien
for me
versus Predator.
the Snow White movie. Like that was just like, but this was, there was, other than the middle part, like it did feel long. I was never like wanting to be like, let's get this I want to get out of here, you know what I mean? Like,
right. And I meant to look up, I didn't. I don't know if the guy who wrote these books did any other books like this.
So maybe we'll see another movie. Probably not if both
I don't
of these
think
didn't
so.
do well.
Neither. Abraham Lincoln did okay, just barely broke even. Pride and Prejudice did not.
Is it just because it was more expensive or because they didn't push it at all?
No, it wasn't expensive. It was like a $28 million movie.
That seems cheap because, like I
it
said, the
looks better
sets
than that.
and the costumes are all great.
I think it was because they didn't do any CG. I think everything was practical effects. Yeah. So all they had to do was...
And there weren't that many people in the movie. A core cast that they...
Right. They got nice-looking people in good-looking costumes.
In nice-looking places.
Right. And they trained them to fight. And then they did a bunch of blood effects and some...
Right.
Yeah, and like you said, they would cut away if they had to do too much gore. So, yeah, I think it just didn't actually cost all that much. Abraham Lincoln was like a...
Yeah,
maybe something like a $90 million movie.
No way.
All right, give me a second. I don't want to lie to the podcasting audience.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny though how these bad-looking movies end up being expensive because of all the digital effects.
Film had a budget of $99.5 million.
Whoa.
Yeah,
and it actually made money.
And was produced in 3D. You don't say.
And that made money, and this one didn't for $28 million.
Yeah.
That means they just didn't give it a wide release.
Yeah. Well, this one it said
I'd be interested to see how many...
worldwide box office was 116.
So
million.
They eked out.
But
that didn't even
honestly,
count promotional.
it probably did lose money
because if
with marketing costs.
Yeah, the costs don't usually include their promotional efforts.
And a lot of that was it made $38 million domestically, and
which
then
is low
and then the rest
was
outside of the country. So this was
they should have made Pride and Prejudice R rating, have better zombie fights,
some boobs,
maybe more boobs. Yeah.
Yeah, no boobs.
A few less buttons on those bodices.
Yeah, they did one button rip.
One bodice ripping.
That was
moment.
it. That was all we got.
Yeah.
And no shirtless dudes. That was
that's true.
That was a bit of a bummer. So I'm gonna bump my visual down a notch. No, it was still a fun movie to watch.
Stayed in the parlance of the times. Someone wearing 50 shirts.
Yeah.
Not parlance.
It just wanted to be historically accurate. Was all. But I think that's going to go ahead and do it for us this week.
Good deal.
All right. Thank you for listening, for giving a new podcast a chance, and hopefully we will catch you next week.
See ya.